Thanks for joining us for the Halloween video hop from the 19th to the 25th. Hi everyone, and welcome to Heartcraftpaper. My name is Monica. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a Halloween double slider card. So for today's tutorial, I'm going to be using the greeting form. Now, these are the trick-or-treat sets. That's 1, 2, and 3 for this particular card. I'm going to be using Frankie from the first set. And then I have the Mad Scientist, the Clown, and Cleopatra. Oh, I can't forget this little cutie. I want this monster in there. And then on the third grouping, I'm going to use the little ghost. So I have already pre-stamped and colored in my images, and look at how cute these are. I absolutely love the greeting farm images. Now I'm going to start by fussing. You want to make sure that you take your time doing this because you're going to leave a 1/8 of an inch border all the way around, and that does take a little bit of time. Even though it looks like I'm going pretty fast here, that's because it's fast forwarded. All right, now that our images are all cut out, we can move on to the die cutting process. This set is the double slider surprise from Lawn Fawn. I've cut 1 of the slider function panels, 2 of the side panels, and 2 covers. These are all out of 110-pound cardstock. I also die cut 2 pull tabs. You're also going to need a Ziploc bag or some type of plastic bag for your slider device. I've cut out a strip of the plastic Ziploc bag that I had. Now I'm just going to add that onto my slider mechanism and make sure that it is not quite too tight, but I'm going to use double-sided tape in order to adhere this down. I want it to overlap over this end here. Now you're going to want to be careful that this piece of plastic is neither too loose nor too tight. If it's too tight on the mechanism, it will not move. So make sure that you're using your finger as a buffer before placing down your plastic ends together. All right, let's give this a little test to make sure that it moves along this mechanism pretty well. I think that works fine. Okay, here I have die cut 2 side panels out of black glitter cardstock. I'm going to use this hillside die in order to create a scene. I wanted to make sure that my side panels also had a bit of detail. Now this particular die I had purchased a while back from Crafting Desert Divas. There are other companies that carry dies of this particular theme, so you should be able to find something like that if you decide to make a card specifically like this one. So I'm going to go ahead and run these through the machine. Here you have them, a really nice little detail that will be added to our side panels. All right, time to add some color to our mechanism. I decided to use spiced pumpkin, picked raspberry, and seedless preserve. I wanted to create a sky gradation of oranges to pinks and purples, kind of a dusky type of sky. You just want to be careful that when you're doing this, that you don't go too wide on your coloring. Just because you don't have very much space to work with, so just be gentle with your colors, as well as making sure that your width remains the same on the side panels, especially for the picked raspberry. All right. Here we have all of our pieces ready to go. Look at how beautiful the color is for these particular blendings. Now, here is my moving mechanism. We're gonna start by folding over the cover panels. They have a little score line that's there on the side. You wanna make sure you fold them over and crease them. Now, I had a little bit of a hard time once I blended to kind of figure out where I wanted to bend, but I finally figured it out and it worked out pretty well. First thing we're going to do is put our covers together to make one long piece. We're going to apply them and set them side by side and glue them down. Now, in the Lawn Fawn video, they did use double-sided tape, but for me, I like using liquid glue because I do want to make sure that it creates a nice, strong bond. But then again, that's up to you as the person making this card to make sure that you are comfortable with what you're using. I'm going to set that aside to dry, and we're going to work on our moving pieces. So the first thing I want to do is get some double-sided tape, and I'm going to put that onto my plastic. Make sure that it is lined up to about maybe 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. Once I have it where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I hold that down as I peel away and line up the side panel so that way it runs along the very edge of those bars. We want to make sure they line up to those bars at the very top. All right, time to flip it over and repeat the process. The only thing with this is that you also have to be careful with the coloring. One of the things that I almost did, and I started doing right here, is that I put it in the wrong way. So you do want to make sure that you are careful when you're putting down your piece, so that way the color gradation follows the same pattern and same lines as the front panel. All right, it's time to seal up our mechanism. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do before sealing it up is adding a 1/8 inch double-sided tape to those sidebars, and that is going to be on both sides. Once I've completed lining the mechanism, I will go ahead and remove the backing off of the double-sided tape, and then I will place my mechanism down so that the color side will be face up. Now I'm going to line this up all along that score line. If you notice, I only exposed 2 corners of the score tape. This allowed me a little bit of wiggle room to maneuver my mechanism on the covering. Once I have it where I want it, I'm going to press down on those exposed pieces and pull away the covering. Now I'm going to expose this particular score tape and fold over the tab. Then I'll remove the secondary one here. We're ready to start to seal this up. All I need is a little bit of glue on that edge, and then I'm going to go ahead and fold over the covering. Make sure you press down firmly and allow the glue to set. I'm now ready to work my card base. I picked this black holographic paper that has webs on it from the Hey Pumpkin paper set that you can find at Michael's. I'm going to go ahead and use liquid glue to add that onto my card base and just make sure that all the corners and sides line up. I love how this looks on there. I can now start working my seam. I can now bring back those 2 side panels that I die cut out of black cardstock. I'm going to lay them over that side panel in order to be able to determine where I'm going to trim them down. Once I have them trimmed down to the size that I need, I'm just going to go ahead and test that. I just want to make sure that it fits right underneath that mechanism cover so that it doesn't show too much. For this particular piece, I wanted to make sure I covered the whole entire backing with glue. I don't want any of these smaller pieces lifting up, otherwise it will interrupt the mechanism. I want to be gentle with this process. So I don't want any of my parts folding up. I have to be very careful. Once I have everything where I want it, that I press down firmly to make sure that none of those pieces lift up that will disrupt my mechanism. Now that I've finished the right side, I'm going to work on the left side. Make sure that I repeat the same process. For the cover, I took a swatch of black glitter cardstock and die cut it with the same hillside. Now it is a little bit longer than what I needed, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and trim this down. Once I have a better idea of where everything is going to be, I'm just gonna snip off that excess right there on the side. So I'm gonna move this down just a little bit, and then I'm going to snip away those little branches that are covering out that circle cutout. I don't want anything interrupting my access to the mechanism. Okay, let's go ahead and get this glued down. Again, you want to make sure that you have glue in all of those little spaces there on the back, because if you don't, those little pieces will end up lifting up. As you can see here, I specifically remembered that, and I had to bring glue all the way up to the very edges at the top. Once I have my image all glued down, I'm going to go ahead and remove any other unwanted items that are kind of hanging over the edge. And as you can see here, I do have a little strip of black there at the very bottom that I am going to go ahead and remove. I'm going to use the sentiment Trick or Treat from the first set. I'm going to be using Intense Black from Simon Says Stamp in order to set down my sentiment. I like to rotate my inking so that way I get a very good coverage. I'm going to stamp down my sentiment in the upper right of the mechanism cover. I want to make sure that I press down nice and firmly on this to make sure that ink transfer happens very cleanly. That came out perfectly. Let's have a closer look. It's time to add our trick-or-treaters. And look at how cute these little guys are. I'm going to put the little monster girl and the clown on the right panel. And then I will add the Cleopatra and the lab or the mad scientist over on the left. I absolutely love these set of images. All right, let's go ahead and give this a test run to make sure nothing kind of comes loose or stops our mechanism from moving. And there we go. It moves perfectly. I didn't want to leave my card empty on the inside, so I decided on using the sentiment Creep It Real. I thought that was absolutely cute. I'm also going to utilize this little bitty spider here on the edge of my card. Again, I'm going to stamp this with the Intense Black from Simon Says Stamp, and just making sure that I get enough coverage on there. Stamp that there in the center, and then I will go ahead and stamp out that little web. I thought that was just a really cute little touch. And finally, I'm going to add a little ghost onto that sentiment. I thought that was a cute touch. Now, don't think that I forgot about my little ghost and my little Frankenstein. No, they're going to add a touch of color to the inside. Isn't this just adorable? I love, love, love how they look in there. All that's left is to adhere our mechanism onto our card base. I'm going to go ahead and use a 1/4 inch foam tape and just lay that across the whole entire back of my mechanism. You want to be careful of not putting anything over those die cut half circles. Otherwise it will interfere with you being able to actually pull the side panels out. So I adhered that on, and then I remembered that I had those 2 little tabs I wanted to add, so I went ahead and did that, but I cut off the rounded edge and just glued that down onto the sides, being careful that I didn't go ahead and cover any of my images here. All right, let's go ahead and give this a nice little test run and make sure everything is running smoothly. Trick or treat! I absolutely love these little guys popping out of the side. It is just adorable. All right, here's the inside as soon as you open that up, and voila. You now have your card ready to go. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hop to the next video. You'll find the links below. For more videos and tutorials like these, don't forget to subscribe. Visit the blog for more information at www.heartcraftpaper.com. Thanks for watching Heartcraft Paper.